You may have heard of the Pimsleur approach. It's a technique for learning foreign languages pioneered by Dr. Pimsleur a number of years ago. When I was contacted to test out a new piece of software, the Pimsleur Unlimited software, I was a bit surprised. The Pimsleur approach to me is something that I had used a number of years ago, and it always struck me as a relatively simple approach, being that it uses just audio files. And in today's day and age, when we have such rich media available, it just felt a little bit outdated. So when I received news of this Pimsleur Unlimited software, I wanted to give it a shot and see what it could do. I received the Pimsleur Unlimited software in the mail in the form of this CD-ROM, which was a bit surprising in itself in today's age of downloadable content and just kind of on-demand sort of stuff to have an old enter in a serial key sort of product. But no matter, I installed the software and started learning with the Pimsleur Unlimited software. So first, the Pimsleur approach. It uses audio, a 30-minute lesson each day. The idea is that you listen and respond to the audio for that day. And it uses conversations in each lesson as the main jumping off point for the actual educational session. What is interesting to me about this, and what has always a little bit frustrated me about the Pimsleur approach, is that there's no hooking in, there's no contextualizing the information. You're just immediately thrown into an auditory world where you can't see what syllables are being said, you can't connect them to reading or to etymology or to any history of the words of the foreign language. And to me, this has always been annoying because that's how I like to learn. And I think it's a more effective way to learn. When you look at this software here, even in Pimsleur Unlimited, it starts off with just a plain audio lesson. And there's nothing on the screen except this bit of stock photography, and you just sit and listen to a 30-minute lesson. Now, that may have been cutting edge technologically when the Pimsleur approach was first invented, but in this day and age, it really seems like you should be engaging more of the senses, just more cues in order to learn things. By contrast, I did a product review of a How to Memorize the Periodic Table product a week ago. And in that product, there are hand-drawn visuals to connect the ideas to, so you can develop mnemonics so that you can kind of engage the other senses. And that's one thing that I really feel like the Pimsleur approach is missing, is it's very easy to become distracted and to lose attention when you're just sitting there listening to an audio file. Even if you are repeating what's being said, then frequently you just don't get a full grasp of the language. And I'll come back to this point in a little bit when we look at the new features to Pimsleur Unlimited. Now, the audio lesson itself starts and closes with a conversation, and you're just kind of thrown straight into the deep end, which again is interesting, but a more deconstructed approach I think works better and has been shown to be more effective recently. That being said, I do like some of the principles in the Pimsleur approach. For example, only use it for 30 minutes. The lessons are capped at a pretty reasonable amount of time. They use a sort of primary recency effect, which you can read about on the blog, but basically that you introduce new content at a particular time, that you do reviews at the end. Basically, the timing on the lesson is structured to work pretty well with this idea of how to essentially space out a perfect practice session. So if you go to the blog at lifebyexperimentation.com, I explain what a perfect practice session looks like, and you'll see a lot of similarities between the structure of the 30-minute Pimsleur approach lesson and a 30-minute practice window in the perfect practice plan. So that being said, what's new about Pimsleur Unlimited? Flipping through here, the audio lesson, as we said, is essentially the same Pimsleur approach as always. The main thing that really jumps out to me that's new and different is the speakeasy lessons. So I'll go back to day one here, and I can go over here to the speakeasy tab. This is what I'm looking for when I'm learning a language. I can see the dialogue, I can click on it in order to repeat it, and then I can speak it aloud. All of this is, to me, much more useful, and I think it's demonstrably better for learning because you can put the words into context. If we look at Senhor here, this is Brazilian Portuguese, as you can see, but it looks and sounds fairly similar to the Spanish Señor. So when you see it written out, you can start to develop associations, you can start to have a fuller comprehension of the words, and potentially connect it to other languages, other ideas, and develop your own memorization or recall techniques. So I think this, kind of ironically, the new feature, the speakeasy, is more useful for the learning, in my opinion, than the actual audio lesson a lot of times. That being said, there's still a lot of features that just don't seem to be present here. For example, I can't mouse over individual words and learn about what they mean, or hear individual pronunciations, or see the pronunciation guide. There's no rich media associations going on here. In a lot of modern products like Duolingo, there is a interactive breakdown that you can always access at any given point in time. There's always an ability to tap on a word, learn what it means, and kind of direct your own studies, which is fundamentally what the Pimsleur approach has always been lacking. It's a very lecture-based approach. You listen, and yes, you repeat, but there's no choose-your-own-adventure. There's no ability to go and research something. In fact, it even explicitly discourages the idea of looking up words or writing things down during the lesson. And there's times when that sort of approach, that use it approach, is useful, but as a full language learning piece of software, you really need to be able to go dive in and explore the things that you don't understand. Otherwise, you're never going to have a full comprehension, a full grasp of language. So, all that being said, this also just feels like a product that is trying to keep up with the times and not quite accomplishing it. From a technological perspective, again, it came on a CD-ROM drive. It required many gigabytes of space to install. This application is not exactly the most technologically sophisticated or modern designed application, none of which are, a big deal, but with so many other good products out there on the market today, like Duolingo and so on and so forth, it's just hard to imagine using Pimsleur as a primary learning technique or really getting a whole lot of value out of it at all, especially because it costs a significant amount of money compared to a free service like Duolingo. Now, that being said, there's also some other interesting things associated with the product. There's reviews, there's cultural chat events. All of those sorts of things are great additions. And certainly, being able to go use a language is very important. But all of these additional features end up feeling like things that are bolted on. They're attached to this old, outdated Pimsleur approach and attempting to fix or correct the problems of the approach without revisiting the model. I think the problem fundamentally is that the company, the Pimsleur approach, has too much vested in this theory of Dr. Pimsleur and doesn't allow itself to evolve with the times. And that kind of leads it to just bolt additional features on without re-examining the premise of how exactly to do the lessons. Maybe it would be valuable to engage the student a little bit more, to not just lecture at him. So that is my impression of the Pimsleur approach and Pimsleur Unlimited software. I should mention that for this review, I was given a copy of the Brazilian Portuguese Unlimited. I chose that because I have never studied Brazilian Portuguese before, and I do have some context. I speak some Spanish and some French, so it gave me a certain familiarity with learning languages. And I've also done reviews of other products like Duolingo in a similar way, where I used it for a new language, German, and looked at how well it taught me from scratch. And if you want to go check out those other educational software reviews, it's not just limited to foreign languages, but all sorts of educational software. Check out the blog at lifebyexperimentation.com. I hope you found this review useful, and please leave a comment or subscribe.